order. The meeting for June the 12th will come to order. Jan? Here. Debbie? Here. Deisha? Here. Greg? Here. Okay. Okay, I have an announcement that I want to read. Can y'all hear me with this?
Not very good.
Can
You
you?
lean into it.
Pretty decent.
Pretty close. Okay, now?
There.
Okay, all right, great. As most of you know, we have a change in staff at the City Hall. We have a new temporary secretary and a new temporary hours, which are 9 to 12 and 1 to 3, Monday through Thursday. Due to situations at City Hall, myself and all the council members, with the exception of one, have put numerous hours trying to get the City Hall back to the point of conduct day-to-day business. We appreciate everyone's understanding and cooperation as we move in a positive direction to do what's best for our great citizens. We will be swearing in our new police chief very soon. We are also taking applications for city secretary and public works employee, and also firework donations if everybody wants to give to that. All right. Now we have a council member resignation that was brought to us. I'll read it to you. May 30th, 2023. To whom it may concern, I, Helen Junkins, do hereby resign from the Ladonia City Council as of Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, as it proposes a conflict of interest with another project that I have going on. My sincerest apologies to the citizens that voted for me. Helen Junkins, 5/30/23. We vote to accept it, right? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to accept this?
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Helen Jenkins.
Second? You'll second it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, that was unanimous. Thank you. We're going to adjourn till 6:30.
I make a motion that the special meeting adjourn.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
So what I do when I'm
Call to order on the notice from the water and sewer workshop. Roll call. Jan? Here. Debbie? Here. Deisha? Here. Greg?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Halsey, will you do the invocation, please?
Heavenly Father, we do thank you again for this day and for all the blessings that you give us each day, Lord. We ask, Lord, for your divine guidance in this meeting today, and help our city council make the decisions that will benefit the citizens and benefit our city in the long run. Not just short term, but long term, Lord. We pray for your guidance. We also ask that you forgive us of our sins, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, I would like, this is for the council members. Everybody that's on the council that has a phone, please put it on your desk and no texting while we're having our meeting. Everybody? Okay. Mr. Halsey, you have a statement?
Yes. I was just concerned about the subject of this meeting tonight. The Hickory Creek takeover, as it's called, with our water. And I think I've talked to a few people around about that.
We can't hear you, sir.
Sorry about that. Is this better?
That's better.
Yes.
Okay, good. I've talked with a couple of the members here, but I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered. When I heard the first presentation by Hickory Creek, which is about 60 seconds long, that they indicated they were going to take over the city water and take over the city sewer. They were going to do all these great things for just the revenue that the city now collects for those things. That was my impression. My first impression was that this has the earmarks of a scam, and I hope that's not right. There's a lot more questions than there are answers. Why would they take over all this liability for just this revenue? If it's so lucrative, the city could do that now. But the city has chosen to accept or to take a look at this proposal. I got to thinking there's a much larger reward for them on the horizon, and that's called lake water. Now, I know there's a contract with the city and with the lake people that we can't sell this water without their permission, but somewhere down the road, if we give this lake or give our water and our sewer system over to this Hickory Creek, we no longer have control of that. They would get any benefits that could result, if there are any. Now granted, there's no lake right now, but that's coming on the horizon. We all know that it's going to be here eventually. So what I would suggest is that all the members here and our attorney and everyone do their due diligence. Make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the dots are, or all the I's are dotted. Everything is considered. Weigh all the options. And as they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's too much at stake here for the city of Verdunia. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, Hickory Creek, would you like to come up?
I don't think I'll need to have the microphone. I'm sure you can hear me okay, right? My wife consistently accuses me of never needing a microphone, so I'm plenty loud. My name is Eddie Daniel, and I'm with Dunaway Engineers. I know before, some of y'all have probably been here and have heard Aaron Moreland speak. He's a part of our office, one of the young engineers in our office. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am, and then I'm going to offer some comments about Hickory Creek's role, and then just talk to you all about any questions and comments that you may have, okay?
Sir,
Yes.
we're not going to take any comments or anything from the audience. They're asking.
They're doing questions, written questions. Sounds
Yes.
great. Yeah, that's
Okay.
perfect. We'll address those questions.
Okay.
No worries. So as I mentioned, my name is Eddie Daniel. I'm with Dunaway Associates, and it used to be DBI Engineers. You may have actually seen that somewhere before. I owned DBI Engineers for 25 years. I've actually been in the water utility business for about 37 years total. My background goes way back to managing Caddo Basin SUD and Cache SUD, a couple of special utility districts before I opened up my engineering firm. We're located in Farmersville, Texas, so we're local. We work out of the Farmersville office. We work with cities, water supply corporations, and districts, special utility district, municipal utility districts. We have about 100 utilities that we represent in total. A lot of them you probably know. Some of the neighbors around here, we're the engineer for North Hunt SUD and Bodart Mud, and the city of Trenton, the city of Celeste, and the city of Caddo Mills. And so we have a lot of cities, a lot of WSCs, a lot of SUDs that we work with. Been doing this a lot of years. We've been Hickory Creek SUD's engineer for, I don't know how many years. It goes back a long way, probably 15 or 20 years, nearly since the beginning of our becoming a firm. What I wanted to do is kind of let you know tonight about a little bit about the process of what might happen. It was a good comment that you had regarding why would Hickory Creek consider doing this. I'll actually answer that from what I think Hickory Creek's perspective will be. Keep in mind too that Hickory Creek will be able to add to this as necessary as they see fit. But they've asked me to come because we're involved heavily in the design, consultation, and engineering that they do. We also help through the process of this. We've worked through steps like this before where we've seen entities merge together. When I was actually managing and operating utilities, we went through the process of merging utilities together. And the reason you do that is to get economy of scale. Typically, it's helpful. Things are less expensive when you can get an economy of scale. Hickory Creek is a pretty large, geographically situated, a pretty large system. It has about 150 square miles of territory that it covers. And they realize that in the state of Texas now, there's so many regulations that are required to own and operate and treat water and provide wastewater service that you've got to have some economy of scale or you just can't make it. Part of the reason Ladonia struggles some is because a very small number of ratepayers to keep these systems up and running and meet all the requirements that you have to make. It's just difficult. It's difficult to meet the requirements of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. It's difficult to meet financial standards that you need to make the improvements that you need. And typically it's just better if you can spread those costs over a larger group of ratepayers, okay? So Hickory Creek is interested in looking at some neighboring areas and saying, how could we make this better for everyone? Get some economy of scale. And that's what some of the bigger utilities have done around the state. When I was at Cache Special Utility District, if you have kind of driven through anywhere out on 30 or down to Lone Oak or over to Quinlan, you've probably seen some facilities of Cache SUD. It's a really huge system that has a water treatment plant facility on Lake Tawakoni. They merged a number of utilities into it, and as a result, made it a bigger utility and much easier to spread costs to a larger number of ratepayers. Hickory Creek is going through the process right now of working with Arledge Ridge Water Supply Corporation to merge with them. Arledge Ridge has determined that, we do Arledge Ridge's work as well, by the way, but Arledge Ridge has determined that when we did an analysis of their system with their needs, their requirements to kind of provide adequate water and sewers or water service, they don't provide wastewater service, but the water service, they just determined that it'd be very difficult for them to make the necessary improvements and pay for those improvements through the rates. And so what Hickory Creek has done is talk to them about including their area with Hickory Creek to merge the two systems together. The benefits of that is Hickory Creek can provide some additional capacity to Hickory Creek from Hickory Creek into Arledge Ridge by tying the systems together, so it makes one larger system. But also, as they make improvements to the Arledge Ridge area, they're going to be able to more easily provide the services and to pay those costs of doing those system improvements. As they continue to grow, the systems can actually sort of merge or gel together so that you don't have to have these completely separately working systems. Early on, the improvements that are necessary for Arledge Ridge will be paid for by Arledge Ridge. The improvements for Hickory Creek will be paid for by Hickory Creek. But eventually, the system as they merge together would be one larger operating system. So it just tends to work much better that way. I think it's important for us to let you know kind of the steps, the process by which may occur, how this merger might occur. There would be an application that would be necessary, a sale transfer merger application that would be necessary for Hickory Creek to merge the Ladonia system into it. And what that is it sort of takes into account the area, the certificated service area of the city of Ladonia, the certificated service area of Hickory Creek. Those are the state regulated areas that you're guaranteed to be the service provider. And it merges, in this case, the proposal is to merge that together. So you would do an application with the Public Utility Commission to do this STM, sale transfer merger of the systems. And the system would actually, the service area would actually, the CCN would actually become Hickory Creek's CCN. So the city of Ladonia's CCN would be transferred to Hickory Creek. Also, there would be a transfer of the actual facilities, because if Hickory Creek's gonna own and operate the system, they have to have all the facilities that it takes to do that. So they have to be able to manage those, the water well and the pump station and the wastewater plant in order to do that effectively. They have to have that ability because they're gonna be held to a higher standard to operate them, manage them in accordance with the regulations. They have to be able to say, yes, we own them, so that we can make the required improvements that's necessary to bring them into compliance. I understand that there's perhaps some compliance issues, maybe with the wastewater system, maybe the plant, I don't know. But I think that what Hickory Creek would do is they would propose to go out and do an evaluation of all the facilities and commit to take the necessary steps to bring any non-compliant things into compliance. I know you mentioned, sir, about the water availability, the potential raw water from the new lake. We do Bodark Mud's work, so they're right, as you probably know, they're right, the new lake, the new Bodark Lake's right in the center of their service area. We helped them to negotiate with the construction of that lake and what improvements would be needed to the Bodark system to be able to accommodate that lake being in their service area, because it sort of split their system in half. But in this case, Hickory Creek doesn't have any surface water that they deal with. Frankly, they can't afford to build a water treatment facility. A water treatment facility is very, very expensive. On the order of about $20 to $30 per gallon. So a 1 million gallon per day treatment plant would cost you about $20 to $30 million to build. It's very expensive. You can always pump groundwater cheaper than surface water. And so for the time being, for the immediate future, for the foreseeable future, there won't be anything but groundwater providing service in this area until it grows enough, until there's such a huge demand that maybe there's some requirements for additional capacity. But entities like Upper Trinity and City of Irving, most of this water, as you know, is going to be transferred out of the county into Denton and Collin counties to serve Upper Trinity customers, to provide service to the City of Irving and Upper Trinity. It's not going to be feasible to use it locally or to sell it locally within Fannin County for many, many years to come. It's just too expensive. I would not recommend that Hickory Creek get any of the surface water and do anything with it, and I don't think they want to do anything with it. They have no vested interest. They can't turn around and sell it to anybody. As I understand, the contract says you must use it or sell it within Fannin County, within the area in Fannin County. So it wouldn't do them any good. They couldn't serve parts of their system with it anyway. So there's really no vested interest, as I see it, for Hickory Creek for the surface water that might be available. I just don't see that as something that excites them. Let's see, what else was I going to mention? I was going to mention the repairs for the system. So Hickory Creek, what they do is, and I'm familiar with a lot of water utilities around, used to manage and operate them. I know for a fact that Hickory Creek, one of the ways that they're efficient in what they do is they self-perform everything. Hickory Creek, they have their own crew members to install new lines. They have their own staff, crew members that do leak repairs. Everything they do is self-performed. That helps them to do it much more inexpensively. They can go fix a leak. They can go install a new line. They can go do just about anything they need to do. Where many systems, and I assume with Ladonia now, it's very difficult to find people to go and do repairs and to make system improvements. And when you do so, you have to hire maybe an outside contractor to do that. So it can be very difficult and costly to perform those repairs in-house. Hickory Creek, as they grow in size, as they get more customers, they're more able to respond because they'll be able to hire the necessary, they'll be able to hire even more staff members to make those repairs as needed. Let's see what else I have. I mentioned that all the paperwork, Hickory Creek would take care of, the paperwork would be filed to transfer the system over. The Hickory Creek would acquire the facilities that are necessary to operate the system. Hickory Creek would only utilize revenues from water and sewer sales. That's all they really can do. They can't control any of the city's money. So if the city has revenues coming from other sources, whether that's sales tax dollars or ad valorem taxes, Hickory Creek doesn't have any access to that. They don't have a way to get access to that. That's the city's money. But the city's water and sewer revenues currently would become water sewer revenues that Hickory Creek would need to access in order to effectively operate the system. Okay. There are some things that need to be addressed pretty quickly in the city. I know Hickory Creek has mentioned installing backflow prevention. There's some backflow prevention that offers some health hazards. No one likes to hear that there are health hazards, but that's the whole idea of backflow prevention. Is the reason you have backflow prevention on water systems is because there are potential health issues. And so you want to prevent any kind of health hazards that could happen, and so Hickory Creek would assess those hazards and require backflow prevention as necessary and is required by law. I understand, I know that there's some issues with the hot water in town, that the well, hey, that's normal. North Hunt SUD had hot water as well. Y'all probably knew that. Many years ago, we got a grant to put a cooling tower on their well, and it helped considerably on the temperature of the water. So we're able to come in and help the city get grants. Hickory Creek could get grants on behalf of the water system to make some improvements like that, which would help to improve the system, especially things that are more aesthetic in nature, like the hot water. That could be beneficial. Rehabbing the wells and storage. I know y'all have recently spent some money on your water system. That's great. That helps you to be more ready to provide service in the future. I know you've acquired debt in order to do that. Hickory Creek would take over that debt and service the debt service that is required as a result of doing those improvements. And so in order to service that debt, they have to get the revenues to be able to offset that debt. I mentioned that the Hickory Creek would take a look at the wastewater improvements that are required as a result of the compliance issues. We would do an evaluation of that, and we would come back with a plan for them on how to best bring that plant into compliance. We work with water plants, sewer plants, water wells, all kinds of water and sewer facilities all the time, so we'd be willing to take a look at that and offer comments and a report on what it would take to bring it into compliance. Hickory Creek, as a part of taking over the system, would have staff available to be able to come in and make immediate repairs whenever there's an issue here. I know that in small systems, we still work with some really small systems, and some of them just can't afford to have a maintenance staff on hand. Can't afford to have them ready to go out and mobilize and do a leak repair. And as a result, sometimes leaks go on for days, and sometimes weeks, sometimes longer, because they just can't really afford to make those repairs. Hickory Creek never does that in their system. They go out, as soon as they know about a leak, they go out and mobilize and make that repair, because they think it's that important But also, they know they're losing revenue otherwise. Whatever's going into the ground is losing revenue. There are some lines that will have to be upgraded in town. I know some of them have been upgraded, but others will have to be upgraded, whether those are water or sewer lines. Those will be taken care of as they're identified and prioritized. And part of that's doing a hydraulic analysis to determine what it's going to take, what recommendations our firm would make to make those improvements, to make the changes that are necessary to help the city. And then we would cost out, do some budgets on those and prioritize and rank the importance of how soon they might need to be taken care of. I think it was, maybe there was a question once before mentioned about what happens whenever a road has to be torn up in order to make a repair, a leak or something. Just like Hickory Creek does now, anytime they have a leak in a road that has to get repaired, or a leak in the edge of a city that has to get repaired, they restore that road to its original form, whatever that may be. So if it's a Rock County road, they go back and restore it to a Rock County road. If it's an asphalt county road, then they restore it to asphalt county road. They would do that same thing here in Ladonia. They would need to be able to do that. What you can't have in town is your asphalt roads being torn up to make leak repairs and then not put back in their original condition. So Hickory Creek would need to do that. Hickory Creek is, and part of your question was, how can it make sense for Hickory Creek to take over something like Ladonia and make it a going concern? And we kind of call that in the industry a going concern. How is it a going concern? One thing about Hickory Creek is no one makes a profit from it. It's a special utility district. It's a political subdivision of the state, just like the city is. So no one ever makes a profit of it. Nobody can legally you can't make a profit. It operates on a zero-sum game every year. They have a budget that is, includes no profits to any person. It's not legal to do that. What they do is what any special utility district, any city for that matter, operates within the means that are collected each year. So what Hickory Creek would have to do each year is prepare a budget. And they determine what the budget is to make the necessary improvements, to make the necessary, to install any new lines, to make any repairs that are necessary, and then they would set the rates according to that. Now, I know that Hickory Creek has mentioned or offered to lock the rates in for a period of time, to say, we will set these rates in for a 2-year period. That way you can feel comfortable that for 2 years there's not going to be any rate changes or any rate increases. I think the numbers that have been bannered around is a $43 water bill, which includes 2,000 gallons. So 2,000 gallon minimum included in the water bill, and the base rate being $43 per month. They would agree to lock that amount in for a period of 2 years. I think on the sewer bill, they had mentioned locking in a rate of $30 per month for sewer bill, which also includes that 2,000 gallons minimum of water. So the minimum bill, if you're using 2,000 gallons or less, you're just paying the base minimum. If you use more than the 2,000, then it's a cost per 1,000 gallons. And I don't know exactly what the per 1,000 gallon rate would be. I don't know if that's been decided yet, but there would be a fee per 1,000 gallons, which is normal in the industry for water to use above the 2,000 gallons. Okay. Let's see, what else do I need to bring up? I mentioned freezing the rates. Hickory Creek would be the retail water and sewer provider for the city. By the way, it happens more than you know. There are many SUDs that we work with that serve cities, serve all of cities. Cities just either are too small to do that. A lot of times it's communities, sometimes it's cities, sometimes it's towns that just don't have the wherewithal to own and operate their own water and sewer system. And so the surrounding districts operate and manage those for them, and in most cases own all the facilities in it. I know that in sort of the utility circles in the area, I mean, you can talk around the different utilities. You talk to people who reside in different utilities, and you'll see those, you'll quickly hear from the customers how good or how bad they're operated and managed. And I'm telling you, I think you'll hear from a vast majority of Hickory Creek's customers that they do a great job of operating and managing their systems. They keep up with repairs to the system, they keep up with service. They just don't have service issues. They don't have service outages. And part of that's just being proactive and making sure they make the necessary repairs to the system. They keep up with what it takes to keep the system operational and functional. They have SCADA, which is telemetry controls, that identifies and tells them when there's a power outage. It tells them when there's a pressure problem. It tells them when a tank gets low. It tells them when a well isn't kicking on for some reason. And they can mobilize staff members oftentimes to catch a problem before they ever run out of water. So that happens over and over again. And part of that's just having the wherewithal to be able to go install those kinds of facilities and take care of the systems in the manner they need to. What have I left out? I think everything's covered. Have any questions? Are we ready to?
Well, I'm
Get some
waiting to hear
questions.
from Hickory Creek.
Well, I've said it twice, so I thought it'd be more efficient if he maybe touch base on some stuff that I didn't. So I was letting him do our presentation. That's
All
cool.
right.
One thing I'd like to say is the city will have an increase every year, no doubt, because we have to because of our loans. The way they're set up, we are forced to pass on a water increase every year. We don't have a choice in that matter. That would in turn go away is one thing. Another thing is almost all of our sewer lines are in the middle of the road. We have sewer line break, and we've had one not too awfully long ago cost us $8,000. And it was, what, 700 feet, I believe? We got a whole lot more than 700 feet to work with. And every one of them is old pipe in the middle of the road.
Clay.
We have, we just had a customer that had minimum pressure. Actually, it was illegal pressure. It was only 30 pounds. So the contractor we have now, over a week to even go look at it. And it's still not fixed as of today. We have a response time, terrible response time. And we're trying to do our best, but we're at the mercy of a contractor. And we call, and they say, okay, we'll get to it. And then it's at their convenience whenever they can send somebody out. And we've looked into hiring a different contractor. We're game for anything y'all can come up with. We've gone out and we've checked, we've looked. We talked to one city. They said, oh yeah, we'll talk to this guy, he does ours. And he said, I'm too busy, don't have time, can't do it. That's the closest we got to hiring anybody else. So we're kind of in the situation where we don't have a choice. We call one contractor and they get to it when they can. it's issues like that that's, it really causes issues in the city. And we don't have our own people work in the system. We hire them to do it. And so, we just answered a TCEQ letter, in fact, it just went out today, didn't it? Yeah, over a situation. So, those are not good things. Those things can be very harmful to the city. So, those are just some little things to stop and think about, so.
Not to mention putting up that fence that TCEQ
We have to have a fence put up.
around the sewer.
Anyway, you wanna?
How about questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna come get. Anybody got any over here?
There's one or two here.
Is it empty? Are you? Oh, never mind. Oh, that's okay. I'll let them put it.
Well, I have it in front, so that should.
Any more down there?
Are there
Back here?
any questions in the front of that one?
No. Any?
Did they find everything? Years ago, it's probably treated too long.
Should we shake it up or just pick it off the top? This is the first one I came to. If we need upgrades, which at this time we do, what money can you use? Basically, we're starting with a deficit, and I don't see how money from bills will allow the repairs, et cetera. So, great question. One of the things that any water system does when they merge somebody into them, it usually starts as a deficit. It just does. When I was at managing Cash SUD, I think while I was there, we actually merged 3 different utilities into our service area. None of them had any cash to offer. They had facilities, they had a few ratepayers, but we had to lose money initially because we had to go out and make those system improvements at our cost. What you have to have is a bigger picture mentality. So you have to realize that we're going to be looking into the future here, and Hickory Creek won't make money from the beginning. But they know that in time, just like around the new lake up at Bodart, there's some activity starts to generate around the new lake. Y'all know that will happen. Well, I know not everybody wants that to occur, but it appears the new lake's going to come, and short of something catastrophic happening, it's gonna get completed. And once it's completed, things will change around here, like it or not. It's gonna be a different time. Hickory Creek would parlay its size and its ability to hire its own staff to be able to manage people on just, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Greg Morris.
Greg, just like what Greg said, a city the size of Ladonia can't afford to go hire staff to just sit here and wait to make the repairs that are necessary. Just can't afford to do that. There's no way the number of connections, I think y'all are around 300-ish, a little over 300 water sewer connections. Just not feasible to make that happen. But when you put that in with 1,500 here and another 400, 500 here and another, several other systems, all of a sudden you become a pretty good sized system. And you get some economies of scale. You can afford to do things a lot cheaper than you can individually. So there's no way Hickory Creek can make money from the beginning. They have to have a long-term vision, a long-term approach. Okay? Do we know if there's a known point at which we grow too much for the existing well? Yes, there is. So we perform hydraulic analysis on systems regularly as we do engineering and consultation for different cities and water districts. And we regularly, one of the very base things we do, we've done this for Hickory Creek, we've done it for every one of our other clients, is we do an evaluation, a capacity evaluation. It says, here's where you are now. Here's how much of your well capacity is. Here's what percent of TCEQ compliance you are. In other words, your TCEQ requires 0.6 gallons per minute per connection of well capacity. You're at this point, you're at 45% of your allotted capacity. You like this much reaching 85%, which is the point at which you have to plan additional improvements. You like this much being at 100%, which you have to have a new well in order to continue to provide service. So we do those capacity evaluations regularly. One of the very first things that would happen here, I guarantee you Hickory Creek's going to come to us and say, what's the capacity evaluation? We've already done some of that. We already know what those are. And you're actually in, I think, in pretty good shape, right, Aaron? What were the numbers?
Yeah, they're 31% right now.
So you're at 31% of capacity. So you have used up 31% of your well capacity. You can grow 60-something% more. Okay, so kind of put
822.
You can get
is the 85%.
So you get the 85% rule when you reach 822 connections. That means at 822 connections, you have to be planning how you're going to get more capacity into the area. At what's the 100% capacity will be, what's a gallon per minute of the well here? 540. So 540 divided by 0.6 is 900. At 900 connections, you've reached 100% capacity, which means you must have a new well and service in place when you reach 900 connections. So about the time you triple in size, you'll have to have another well. Okay, makes sense. Let's see what's next. Can we get Hickory Creek reviews from other towns serviced by Hickory Creek? I mentioned that earlier, but if you talk to other customers, I think you'll find that Hickory Creek fares very well. But I'm sure they will also provide you with some other, what other communities do you serve?
Merritt, Merritt, Leonard City, the northern part of Greenville. There's,
of course, Celeste, all around Celeste.
Yeah. 5 different cities.
So, what they could do, and really, if I'll give you kind of a pointer. If you go to the PUC website, the Public Utility Commission of Texas website, you can go in there and click on mapping, and you can call up a map, and it's kind of in real time. You can zoom in, and you can see what certificated service areas there are in the vicinity. You can actually click on it. It says, this CCN is so-and-so, this CCN is so-and-so. So you can take Hickory Creek and you can look at all that, where its boundaries are. It shows you exactly where it serves. It's a pretty handy little tool. The second part of that question, will Hickory Creek be able to rate water and sewer rates without approval from Ladonia? Will be able to take, right? Is that what it is? Will Hickory Creek be able to take water and sewer rates? Oh, rates, I guess. Rates. Water and sewer rates without approval from Ladonia city government. So if Hickory Creek, now this would be something that could be discussed, but in all other cases where water systems I'm aware of have taken over and own and operate facilities, they have to raise rates based on what the numbers provide. So after the initial 2-year fixed rate, they'll have to do an evaluation, and eventually rates have to go up. I mean, they just have to. I think if you think they won't, I mean, just kind of take a look at your past history and look forward, with a new loan and what it takes to provide, to service that loan and what it takes to make improvements to the system that are necessary, you just have to eventually raise rates. It's going to happen. What rates haven't increased over the last few years? And so I would say that Hickory Creek couldn't depend solely on the city council of Ladonia to raise rates, because of course the city council would say, no, we don't want to raise rates, but Hickory Creek would need to do that. Just like the council now may not want to raise rates, but they're going to have to. Increased rates are going to be a fact of life from this point forward. We have a lot of clients. We have a lot of water well clients. We have a lot of surface water clients. We work in both realms. So it's kind of interesting kind of comparing. Groundwater is always cheaper. It's never not cheaper. It's always cheaper to deal in groundwater. You can pump groundwater out of the ground for about 50 cents per 1,000 gallons. The cheapest surface water in the state is North Texas Municipal Water District. It serves a very huge area around McKinney and Plano and all over. You probably heard of it before. Their rates currently are $3.44 per 1,000 to their wholesale customers. And Upper Trinity rates are even higher than that, considerably higher than that. So it won't be Hickory Creek. It will be in Hickory Creek's best interest to stay on water wells as long as possible. It'll be in your best interest to stay on groundwater as long as possible. Doesn't mean someday there won't be a conversion to surface water. I actually served on the North Texas Groundwater Conservation District. That's the groundwater district of Collin County, Cook County, and Denton County. And it's an eye-opening experience serving on a groundwater district, because you're actually able to look at the withdrawal from aquifers and see how they are affected over a period of years, and see the drawdown in the aquifers. We know eventually when you stick enough straws in the ground, the levels are going to decrease. They have been decreasing. Fortunately, in our area, we still have an estimated 50 years worth of groundwater. 50 years. We have to plan 50 years in advance. The groundwater districts do. So it's called a desired future condition. You actually have to look 50 years out. There's 50 years worth of groundwater, but it doesn't mean that the groundwater districts won't regulate that and try to limit production as much as they can to preserve that groundwater, to not totally run out of groundwater. So that's a long answer to say rate increases are going to be necessary. Hickory Creek will have to be able to raise those rates. The good thing about it is Hickory Creek is under appellate jurisdiction of the PUC. What that means is whenever they propose a rate increase, if enough of a percentage of the local people protest the rate increase, they have to go justify that rate increase to the PUC. So there is a provision by which local people can say, we don't like the rate increase and we don't think it's justified. And so you go to the PUC and you challenge that rate increase, and they have to justify it. And there are certain criteria by which they have to justify it. Okay, this one may not be for me. I think it's for y'all. Who is really running the city? How is this going to benefit the city? So I think that one's yours.
Okay. Well, this is y'all's presentation.
Okay, well, you want to hold that one for now? I think that's another one. Are the council members getting any personal kickbacks from Hickory Creek?
Oh my God.
I think I can answer that one, no, but Hickory Creek has had, I don't know when there
It
is.
was probably that winter whenever the electric grid went down and everybody was out of water.
Right, when systems froze. Yeah. But I mean, outside of a natural disaster,
We've never,
yeah, systems that I'm just saying this, the norm is you don't have boil water notices. You can't afford to have boil water notices. Systems we work with don't have boil water notices. Part of the reason is because they have the staff it takes to operate and manage it. And hey, I understand the situation. There can be a contractor that is required to come fix a leak. If they don't come that day or the next day, the whole system could be out of water. If a system goes to negative pressure or zero pressure, you have to issue a boil water notice. That's the law. And if you're subject to the schedule of a third-party contractor to make your repairs, you're going to have situations where you're going to run out of water. That's just the way it is. You may have a situation where the well goes down. You may have a situation that electricity goes down and you just don't have the ability to keep it up and running. You're going to have some, I totally understand a system the size of Ladonia having boil water notices from time to time. But larger systems never have that. They have the staff and the equipment and the monitoring equipment that it takes to make sure that never happens. It just doesn't happen. And you can ask around other systems and ask them, when's the last time you put a boil water notice up? It'll be rare. It'll be rare. Okay? It says, we have heard after a while that you have our water. We have heard after a while that you have our water. At one point, you give back 10% off the water bill money back to the city. I've not heard that. I don't.
Not if we're running, we're gonna need the revenue.
Yeah. So there's not a kickback to the city at any point. It's just the city makes a break with the water sewer system. Hickory Creek has to take care of it and do whatever it takes to keep it up and running. But they have to get the revenue in order to do that. So.
Yeah, but what happens if?
No.
Okay, keep going.
Yes.
Would leak repairs be charged on a case-by-case basis? Are there service level targets for repair, response, and resolution? No. So there's no charge at all. Hickory Creek will make all repairs at its own expense. Now, they will get to keep the revenues that it earns from the sale of water, so the sale of new meters and all of that. The water, the quote-unquote water revenues. But they have to make all the repairs at their expense. There's no bill that goes back to the city for that. Now, accordingly, the city doesn't get any kickback out of it either. So it's just a zero-sum game. Hickory Creek has to operate and manage the system, and they do it on the revenues that are collected. Are there service level targets and responses? There's not a target or response order. I'll tell you how Hickory Creek does it now. Mike, you tell me if it's different than this, but all of my other clients are this way. If there's a leak, they mobilize to go fix it. They just don't have leaks. It doesn't mean there's never a leak. They go out and mobilize and make leak repairs whenever it's necessary. And if that's in the middle of the night, it's in the middle of the night. If it's on a Father's Day weekend, it's then. They mobilize. They have on-call staff, and all of my clients do. They have on-call staff to go out and make repairs of the system. And just because part of the idea of merging the systems together, like Hickory Creek and Hardage Ridge and Ladonia, is that it creates this bigger group. They can more efficiently hire additional staff to be on call. But the goal is not to say, that's Ladonia's repair, we're not going to go fix it. It goes against their reputation. They have a reputation to uphold, and they're not going to have people out of water. They just can't afford to do that. And so if they're owning and operating a system, it doesn't matter that it used to be Ladonia, it's Hickory Creek then. And so it goes against their rating and their reputation in the industry. So
Most of our repairs are made within a 3-hour time frame.
what they do is when they hear about a leak, whether that's a mile from Celeste's office or 20 miles down the road, they mobilize and
Last
go
two
out and fix it.
weekends, we've had a leak. Last weekend it was 12:30 at night, and the weekend before last it was at about 3:15. And then we've had two big leaks at the same time. like when a storm comes through or something, we just pull more crews out.
Yeah. Yeah, what they do is they have an on-call group that goes out and checks things out. But they call people in as necessary to go make the repairs. Next question, how will residents' bills be managed and paid? So what'll happen is Hickory Creek will issue, and I think this is the question, but Hickory Creek will send a monthly bill to you. It'll have water and sewer, and you'll pay it directly to Hickory Creek. So it won't come to the city and it has to go through the city's books or anything. It'll just, Hickory Creek will bill you directly, just like they do their customers right now. They'll send you a bill to pay. And so I think that's kind of the question. Now, another question, a follow-up question might be, so how are bills guaranteed to be collected? Well, just like Hickory Creek does now, if someone doesn't pay their bill, they have to go discontinue service. It's just the way that works. All utilities work that way. So they send a bill, you pay the bill. If you don't pay the bill, you ultimately get disconnected. But all of that's handled not through the city, but through Hickory Creek. Hickory Creek would manage that whole system. What will happen to the revenue from the water tower rental? Okay, we kind of handled that already. Hickory Creek is fine letting the tower rentals stay with the city. Okay. Waledonia, why now? It's a good question, so you might want to answer that one. Why? You know, I know overall Hickory Creek has been interested in how can we efficiently grow in the area and gain economy of scale for our customers. Because as you get economy of scale, things actually get cheaper instead of more expensive. I know that. You see that now. But Waledonia, why now?
Well, in all the conventions, they tell us that, I think I've told y'all this before, after about 2,500 meters to 5,000, you reach a point where you don't have to go out and finance as much stuff through banks and stuff. You can self-finance it because of the water sales. So that's where we're going to be. We're at 1,700 customers. Arledge Ridge has 640, you have 300, and the city of Randolph has 140. So those all would be part of it. We can get to that point to where we don't have to go out and finance it. It's just a quicker turnaround on everything. Also, my personal belief, I want to be part of it. Y'all have the rare opportunity of rebirthing Ladonia. Not many cities get the opportunity to build a lake and go from a 500 population to probably 1,500 in the next 7 to 10 years. And we want to be a part of that. We have an excellent water system. We're excellent guys, management, staff, and everything else. I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. You're not going to have that one day or 1 week somebody wanting a repair done. We're going to be able to do it within probably the first 3 hours. Upgrades, we always get with Eddie and Aaron. We figure out what we got to have. We make the financial arrangements. Whether we have to go out and borrow the money to do it or just do it through grants or something like that. But we try to stay ahead. We're right now probably 5 to 7 years out on our customer needs, and that's where we look at long-range forecasting. So, I really don't think you'd be disappointed. You're welcome to call anyone on our service area and ask them, and I guarantee you'll have less than 1% say that they're happy with their service.
I will say, and what Brad mentioned is sort of the magic number. I once had a good old friend of mine that said, when you pay your house off, you'll start to make hay. When you get rid of debt, you'll start to make hay. And there's a lot of truth to that. When we have a lot of larger claims, Caddo Basin is one of them. Caddo Basin SUD, who's nearby, between Celeste and Greenville and Farmersville, all the way down to Caddo Mills. I mean, it's a large system. They have over 5,000 connections or customers now. They're self-financing everything. They don't have to go and, I'll add you to the bond. They don't have to go out and borrow money. They just self-finance. It does begin because when you're paying less interest, then you can save that money and it begins to build upon itself. And there's just, when you have 5,000 monthly bills coming in instead of 300 monthly bills coming in, you can imagine what a difference that makes. So, even though you're providing the same service, the same drinking water or wastewater, you're just able to accomplish more with the larger numbers. Next question. We've heard that having Hickory Creek will mean that when, for example, a well pump needs to be replaced, we won't have to pay for that. Would you please explain how a $100,000 expense will be recouped from the customer? So first off, it won't be 100 because Hickory Creek will have insurance on that well pump. So you take out insurance that it takes. Now there's deductibles, there's still cost involved, but it's nowhere near $100,000. The last well you had replaced, the well pump you had replaced cost, how much out of pocket were you on it?
On $80,000, it was about $1,500.
They were out $1,500 on the last $80,000 pump that they had replaced. And part of that is just having the right amount, having the ability to properly cover on insurance everything that you own and operate. Okay, so it makes a difference. You don't have, you're not out all of that extra money.
Y'all still have a well down? Chlorinator?
Chlorinator, I think so, on the bill too.
Yeah.
So when things like a chlorinator go down, they'll fix that in-house. So they don't have to wait on a contractor to come. Now normally, you have to wait on a contractor to come do repairs to a chlorinator because it's an intricate item. You're disinfecting the water. They got guys that do that in their sleep. They'll go fix that at the drop of a hat. That's just what they do. They don't ever call a specialist and do that. That's something they do. So some of the things is they self-perform, but many of the other things is just having the ability to insure properly, to do the things that it needs to make that happen. So they're not out $100,000 to spread between 300 customers. Next question. Do existing customers have to pay for new meters that do not have to be physically read? So existing customer, what Hickory Creek would ultimately do is to change their, and you probably heard this, their goal would be to go to radio read system. Every water system, everywhere that can possibly afford to do that, does it as soon as they can. It saves a tremendous amount of money to have radio read meters. The most inefficient way is by hand reading. Even in a small system, it always costs more to hand read meters. When I worked at Cash, we had 4 different meter readers that worked for us. They worked all the time reading meters. Of course, it was a big system. At the time, it was more than 5,000 connections. We had to physically go read them. As soon as we could, we did radio read meters, went down to one guy driving the system over a period of less than a week to read every meter. It's always cheaper to do radio read. So don't assume that a new radio read meter costs more. It does cost some to put it in. Hickory Creek would fund that. That's not going to come out. Remember, they're saying we're going to lock in the rates for the first 2 years. They're going to put radio read meters in as soon as they can. There's not that many meters to put in.
We're fixed.
The meters they're using right now will probably run about $35.
Yep.
The radio read meter that we use costs $300.
All right, next question. Is Hickory Creek allowed to use or sell Ladonia's well water, both from today's well or new wells in the future? So first off, they would not drill a new well here unless they have a need for it. So it costs way too much to distribute water to a whole nother area. It's a lot easier or better to drill a well in an area that you need it and then serve that particular area. So it would be important for Hickory Creek not to send water out of your system. You're sitting at about 30%. You don't have that much capacity to send elsewhere. You want to use it here and have it available for growth. Keep in mind, Hickory Creek's going to have to, if they take over the system, they got to plan for the future. You heard Brad say, they're always planning about 7 to 10 years out. or 600 more connections is not that long. Whether you like it or not, it's probably not that long for you guys, and so they'll need to keep that well water here for use in this system. It costs you'd have to build these huge lines to send it out. You'd have to build pumping stations to send it out of the surface area. It just doesn't make sense to do that. Wouldn't be practical to do that. Blank paper. Upper Trinity would likely love to see fewer homes on septic and more wastewater processing. Very true. All surface water providers want more treatment of wastewater and less on-site wastewater, less aerobic or septic systems. Matter of fact, the new zoning area, I don't know anything about the proposed zoning around the new lake. I understand there's a zoning district that's probably created already and is already making rules. But I guarantee you, they're not going to allow septic tanks within a certain radius of the lake, within a take point of the lake. They're not going to. It's too dangerous. It gets wastewater into the lake, and then it costs them extra money to treat. On the other hand, what they love is for treated wastewater to be returned to lakes. Every reservoir, surface water provider fights to get the water that's treated from wastewater plants to be returned in the creek and run back into the lake to help fulfill it, to keep it full. It's a fairly minor amount, but it's an important amount, especially as lakes grow. And you can imagine at Lake Ray Hubbard or Lake Lavon, around where you got McKinney and Plano and Princeton and Wiley all on the banks of that lake. They want all of that wastewater returned back into the lake because they turn around and retreat it again to be able to utilize it. So, yes, Upper Trinity definitely would desire more wastewater treatment and less on-site septic. And by the way, I know it sounds gross to say, well, you're going to put treated wastewater into the lake, better than raw wastewater from a septic tank. So it is a lot better, a lot healthier to have the discharge from a wastewater plant that's properly operating. It's got to work. It's got to be a correct plant. But if you're meeting the rules and regulations of discharge parameters, much safer to put that into a lake to retreat at the surface water level than for raw septic to run into a lake. So, in what circumstances would we see rates go up? How about rates going down? I don't think you'll see rates. I'll be honest with you. I can't imagine rates going. What's gone down lately? I mean, it costs. Chemicals cost more. Employees cost more. Fuel ebbs up and down. But certainly vehicles cost more, equipment cost. I mean, I just don't see rates going down. Hey, that's a hard, cold fact. It's just not going to. North Texas Municipal Water District prides itself on being one of the least expensive surface water providers. I already mentioned that. And they go up every year. They actually had 1 year, 2 years ago, where they froze them for 1 year. But they go up on average of 10% a year. It's just not going to go down because their costs are increasing. If your costs are increasing, if you're operating on that zero, there's no profit going out to anybody. So you got to meet the needs. You got to pay for the operations. It's necessary to go up to cover those costs. You just have to. So why would they go up? They go up because costs increase. To the city council, come up with ideas to trade. Okay. Does your waste management strategy include getting local homes off of septic? So, Hickory Creek would not be able to require anybody to get on the sewer system. You just can't. A city can. So a city can pass an ordinance. I don't know if the city has an ordinance, but we represent a lot of city customers. And what can happen is if there is a wastewater line, a collection line that's available, the law says if there's a wastewater collection line that's available for use, and a septic tank fails, you can require that homeowner or that business to tie on to the collection system. You can force them for two reasons. One, because that line's in place and ready to use. Two, the existing septic system has failed. But short of that, Hickory Creek doesn't have the ability or the authority to force that on anybody. Only the city council could, as a matter of a city policy.
For new developments, we could.
All new developments, by the way, would go on the sewer. Yeah, sure. That's kind of a no-brainer. All new developments would. Let's see what else we got. Upper Trinity has a contract with Ladonia, so why are we having this meeting? True or not, you don't want the surface water from the lake. I've already spoken to that. The Hickory Creek does not care about the surface water from the lake. If not, will or can we get that in writing? Yes, of course, we have to have a contract with the city. So everything has to be spelled out in an agreement. Otherwise, we can't just stand up here and say, sure, we'll do this, and then we don't do it later. There has to be an agreement. And the agreement has to address the things we're talking about, like the tower rent, like the Upper Trinity water, things like that. That's important. It's important to the city to have that in writing. It's important for Hickory Creek to have it in writing. They have to know what they're getting and what they're not getting. Ladonia has to know what it's keeping and what it's not keeping. So it's got to be spelled out in an agreement. There may be some more out there, but last one. In your opinion, why does Upper Trinity not want the city to go with Hickory Creek? I don't know that they don't want that. You think they do? I haven't heard that. Is Upper Trinity opposed to the merger with Hickory Creek?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I'd be interested to talk to them, because I know the guys at Upper Trinity. I've worked with them for years. I know their engineers, Freese and Nichols. I'd be interested to hear what they have to say. They probably think Hickory Creek, that the deal might include the surface water to that Upper Trinity has guaranteed to Ladonia. That might be true.
That's what they were told.
And Upper Trinity would want, the contract says it has to stay in Fannin County in this basin. It's a pretty small area that the surface water from the lake has to be utilized in. It's not like it can go to Collin County. It can't even go to Hunt County. It can only stay in Fannin County in the river basin that's in Fannin County. So it's a subset of even the county. It can't be utilized in other parts of Fannin County. It can only be used in the Sulphur Basin. So that's one reason it doesn't really serve any need for Hickory Creek to have this. They can't turn around and parlay it down into Hunt County where they serve or down into Collin County where they serve. Doesn't do them any good to do that. They can't take it, they can't sell water there. The contract's pretty clear on that. So. But Upper Trinity might be thinking, oh, we guaranteed to keep, and I know they do. Hey, I work with North Hunt SUD. North Hunt realizes that they're one of the two interested parties. The interested parties in the contract are North Hunt SUD and Ladonia. North Hunt has an anticipation of utilizing some water in their system eventually. They don't know how that's going to happen, how they'll ever be able to afford it, but they have an idea that if they grow large enough, they may eventually need it. By the way, they aren't making plans for that right now because we're just now finishing a project with them where we're about to bid another well just south of Wolf City. So they don't see it coming anytime soon, but they think it's been guaranteed to them. They think it's important for them to hang on to that, just like Ladonia did. But I get that. All right. Any others get it written up?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just thought maybe you'd want to hear from him, that he could better explain things than what I've done the last couple of times. I'm more just to get it out there real quick and talk about it. He can go in depth more on it, so. Could I know we did the question, but could we address any concerns that somebody would have maybe that wasn't listed on the question? Or why somebody would think that we're not in the best interest to do this?
As long as it doesn't get into a repeat.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know if anybody's like, why you wouldn't think that this is a good thing for Ladonia. You're gonna get better quality water, quicker fixes on all your water leaks, more upgrades. We're looking into the cooling tower so that you can go from 139 down to, they say, tell us 80 degrees water. So I just don't know if any other reasons why you wouldn't want to do it. So I was just asking if you had anybody had any concerns that they wanted to address.
My concern is that the city of Ladonia runs on water. That's how we pay our bills, that's how this city runs, totally. We don't have anything else here. And if you're thinking taxes or sales tax is gonna support this city, I don't see it. I don't see it.
But your water and your sewer, the money, the revenue that you make off of it should go into its own account to fund water and sewer
It does.
upgrades and repairs and stuff.
And loans.
Yeah, it doesn't support the rest of the city. That's what your taxes
They
are
will
for.
borrow from the water fund to put into the general fund if they need it.
In general, that's what that revenue is for.
This will leave the city broke.
Well, as we try to move forward and get the infrastructure back to where it should be, we've already had 2 developers talk to us about doing within the next year some up to 100 homes and some businesses. If they do that, we can surpass for the first year. Then when those come in, you're going to start drawing more property taxes and more sales tax because of people in here. Well, I
That's
mean,
too far up.
but what other options do you have? Is what I'm
That's too
asking.
far up. We can raise our water bills, just like you can raise our water bills.
But your expenses are going up too. So if you raise your rates up, you're just compensating for your expenses because y'all are restricted
At
as
least
we
keeps us
are.
going until this city grows.
It is, if you don't mind me mentioning, it's not unusual for occasionally small cities to rob from their water fund to go into the general fund. It's a no-no to do that, but that doesn't mean cities don't do that because it is the one amount of money that regularly comes in, water and sewer. Now, sewer never pays for itself, so you typically, sewer's a break-even. You do sewer because you have to. Water is the fund that can have some revenue eventually. But a city like Ladonia, I mean, what it does, it's borrowing from that water fund at the expense of improvements. If that's happening, then it's being done at the expense of much needed repairs and improvements that need to occur. So it's sort of thinking short term or dealing short term, but forgetting long term or ignoring long term. So I understand that can be happening. I don't have a great answer for that, but it shouldn't be happening. Yes, ma'am.
That wasn't my question earlier, but I'm going to ask it the way I think they wanted it asked.
Sure.
Let's say, pretend that in 20 years you totally paid everything, you broke even, okay? And now you're making money on Ladonia. My understanding was that at that time, excess monies would stay here in Ladonia, and you would do what with it? I think that was the question.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens all over their system, matter of fact, the thing they're working out with Artist Ridge right now, Artist Ridge is very much in spite, they're in a similar, but we can't afford to make the improvements we need. We got this huge project that's identified in large part improving lines on 78. We can't afford to really make these improvements, but we can't afford not to. And so they're making this merger, but they realize, Hickory Creek realizes that in order for things to work in Artist Ridge, there has to be more money, not just the first improvements put in, but there's got to be more money put into the Artist Ridge system. It never ends. It does. It never ends with Hickory Creek. They got projects identified. We go through capital improvement plans regularly. We prioritize them for them. And so they're always planning ahead. They will do that for this area as well. They
Well,
would
let's
have
say
to.
that we've already grown, let's say 20 years, we've already grown as much as we can. There isn't it, but there is a profit now that you're getting. I was told that that profit would stay here in this town.
It would be put toward projects in this town.
And
So
that-
no
that-
profit.
and
So it's not.
Just wait, they would put it in escrow, and let's say escrow's got, let's make it easy, $1,000 in escrow, and you keep 10% of that for repairs and stuff. What happens to that other 90%?
Same thing they do now within just the Hickory Creek system. They put it in a, they have different funds. They have a repair fund, they have a debt service
Service,
reserve
right.
fund, they have a future improvements fund. That's just.
Okay, so you explained it to me earlier that it would be going to the city for a project that they need, such as, and I asked, such as a park or whatever,
Yeah.
to support the city.
So could Hickory Creek support building a new city hall? No, they won't legally be able to do that.
What I said was that the water and the sewer sales here would, the revenue that we got would go into escrow. We would take care of, that money would be spent back here in Ladonia, which frees up money that you would make on your property taxes to build a city park or fund other things, is what I told you.
Yeah, you can't, what you can't do, you can't use a proprietary fund. They have some legal requirements. So water sales, water rates are determined by operations, maintenance, repairs, new facilities, new construction.
Well,
You can't utilize money in another category. So
Well, what
it would be
happens
dedicated.
then, okay, let's just pretend that you've got all those accounts to 100%.
Well, they won't be. They never will be. So
Well-
we've been, so for the 25 years I've been working with the city of Farmersville, not even close to having, because the city grows, you have more needs because the city's growing. The needs never stop. Hickory Creek's been growing for all these years. They still have more needs. Mike mentioned, they're always planning 7 to 10 years out. You'll never catch up with it. It'll never be a zero sum. There will never be a point. I've never heard of this, ever,
Well,
with any city.
We have on 3 sides of this city that one is, we can't go past it, and we can't go past Hunt, we can't go past the lake, and we can only go one way. So there will come a time where, yes, Pontiac won't want us in there.
So you'll be surprised. What'll happen is developers will annex into the city to get city-type services. As you grow as a city, this is happening at, I don't know the last time you went through Cattle Mills, Texas. Little Cattle Mills, Texas.
I have, we just
Is
been there.
exploding. And developers are coming and saying, we want to come to Cattle Mills. We want to annex into the city. And part of the water and sewer there is being provided by other utilities. BHP water supply along I-30 between Royce City and Greenville is supplying some of the water there because it's their service area. But they're all annexing into the city because they want to come to Caddo Mills. So you'd be surprised, Ladonia may be, whether you like it or not, maybe really do someday.
Yes, speaking of surface water, I know y'all said you're not interested in the surface water because okay, well, with that being said, and y'all will be laying lines and everything else, then this surface water, when we get ready to sell this surface water, say we wanted to sell it to Commerce. Commerce stops right out here.
You can't sell it.
You can't sell it to Commerce. The contract doesn't allow
Ah,
for it.
that's right.
It's out of Fannin County.
But
See, that's the deal is, it's a very narrow definition of where it can be sold. It's in Fannin County within the river basin. It's that portion of the river basin that's within Fannin County. If you look on the maps, just Google Sulphur River Authority and look on some maps, you'll see it's the lake area and a little bit of the surrounding area. I mean, it's just not much. They carved it that way for a reason, because they don't want it going to Collin County. And they're going to take it to Collin County. They're going to take it to Denton County. They don't want you taking it to Collin and Denton County.
If we have the availability of surface water, and we want to utilize it within this corporation here, corporate city limits of Ladonia and surrounding areas, our easement runs quite a way up. You know where our easement is?
Your service area?
No, where the lake is.
Oh, yeah.
Post
Sure.
Lake is.
Sure.
It runs way up,
You
way
bet.
up 30.
Yeah. Yep, I'm familiar
Well,
with it.
that's a property easement right there. If, say Joe wants to annex to the city, she can petition on that easement.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yep.
For us to be able to supply her, say, with water and sewer, for us to be able to distribute it, would it have to go through them?
So, and let me make sure I'm understanding exactly what you're asking. So, if Hickory Creek takes over the existing water and wastewater system, and somebody and the city, because it owns the surface water rights, decides to build a water treatment facility
Say we get a grant and we get a water.
for $30 million, but
Okay.
let's just say you do.
Like you say, we got lots of folks, don't move up there, can't wait.
I understand. So let's just say you do. Then the city has the ability to construct that surface water. Now, it can do a couple of things. It can serve per the contract, it can serve anyone that's in Fannin County inside the river basin.
Okay.
So look at a map. It's
Okay. Well, we
it's an
know.
area. It can also sell water to Hickory Creek. But I can tell you, Hickory Creek's not going to buy expensive surface water when they can pump well water for a fourth of the price or a fifth of the price.
I'm just
But-
kind of thinking,
Yeah.
projecting.
It's your water. It's your water. You can build a
I
treatment
may
plant.
be dust in the wind when all this happens, but
What'll-
you have to start
So
thinking what if.
it's actually a good question, because what will likely happen in the contract is identified as the interested parties, which is North Hunt, Ladonia. More likely what happens somewhere in the future, it's probably after Stacy Nicholson's reign, and probably after me and you are both dead and gone, but probably what happens is those two entities someday get together, because it's big enough to build a plant. If it ever occurs, that's when it's going to occur. As a joint venture.
Right.
You know, you would, because Ladonia by itself, even when it quadruples in size, ain't going to be able to pay for a $20 million plant. But it's good point. It's your water.
Newt Cunningham said all these lakes going around this area, the water is going to Dallas. We need to think about Fannin County. So,
Absolutely.
if we own some of that lake water and it stays in Fannin County, that puts us in a good spot.
It does. That's
Now,
why it's important for you to keep it.
As the city goes, we sell potable water. That's some of our income. The fire department fills up their tanks right on the end of the green here.
Yep.
And some of these pump services empty their tanks into our sewer system. That's a part of our income. We're losing, even if you give us the rental on the towers, we're still losing income.
Yeah. But you're.
And can the city run on what pittance we get for taxes?
I understand that, but I will say, I haven't analyzed your financials, but I can imagine how from water sales or sewer sales, even if you get some fire department sales or some septic pumping groups or whatever, I just know those don't add up to much. I can tell you, you're probably still going in the hole. It's, you're not on a path that makes your money. So whether you keep that stuff or not, you're still going backwards. I know just because I've
But you
seen
take
it.
a little bit of income here and a little bit of income there and a little bit of income here, which really doesn't have to do with the water system, but we're gonna lose it anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't charge any fire departments for water. We let them, as long as they do a report, they get it for free.
There's farmers who come to get potable water when it's droughts too, and they come inside the city to pay.
Sure, sure. Yeah. There will be
So-
certain things, kind of like we said, that you know, Hickory Creek can't operate, provide the repairs, provide the upgrades without the revenue coming from that system. So they have to get the income off of it if they're going to provide the improvements.
And these electronic
Meters.
meters, the people already have water meters, are they gonna be charged
Nope.
to upgrade?
Nope, no ma'am. No existing customer would pay for that. They don't do that in their own
If the
system.
power goes down or something, which happens quite a lot,
We'll
what
take care of it.
happens with,
Generators will take over. We will put another generator at well too, so you'll be. have
so
a good-
it wouldn't screw up our water?
No ma'am.
Another thing, all the sorted mail goes to Capel, no matter where you mail it from.
Right.
Half the time, we don't get our mail. It goes to another city. By the time we get our mail, our bills are due or overdue.
Our bills will be on due on the 10th of every month, so if you don't have it by the 8th or 9th, call our offices and they can tell you how much your bill will be, and you can pay it over the phone or credit card or something then to avoid it.
And where will our bills gonna be mailed to exactly?
Sign up on the
They'll
internet,
be-
get it electronically.
They'll be mailed directly to you.
They'll be mailed to you. You'll pay them to Hickory Creek's office.
Where is that office?
Oh, in
Celeste.
Celeste. In
Celeste.
Yes,
She's
ma'am.
wondering if you do it paper.
We have
You
paper
have paper,
bills,
it
but
goes-
we also have electronic pay. You can pay online, because y'all do online payments and/or good old-fashioned checks.
Automatic draft if you
You
want.
can do automatic draft. Most people do automatic draft these days, but
4 or 5 different.
Because
My
all-
husband
you-
is
you can pay just
He
about
wants
any
a
way you
bill,
want.
he wants a paper
Sure.
bill.
You'll receive a
You'll
paper
receive
bill in
a
an
paper
envelope
bill.
every month.
Yep, you will.
Regardless of however you pay, you still.
But you can pay online, you can pay by credit card, you can pay with a check, you can walk in cash if you want to.
I'm not driving all the way to Celeste, you crazy.
Anybody have anything else?
Good question. Thank you.
Mayor? I think we're done.
Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Somebody have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All in favor? Thank y'all for coming.